old man who warned me about the forest. I didn't believe the old man. Not at first, but I should have. Because now, as I run through the darkened woods with something chasing me, I realize he was right. The warning. It started on my first day in town. I had just moved to a quiet little cabin on the edge of the forest. Secluded, peaceful, exactly what I needed. I stopped at the general store to grab a few supplies. That's when I met him. The old man. He was sitting near the entrance, wrapped in an old flannel jacket, his face worn and weathered from time. As I walked past him, he grabbed my arm. His grip was stronger than it should have been. "You're new here." His voice was low, rough. I nodded. "Just moved in." His eyes darkened. "Where?" I hesitated. The cabin by the woods." The old man's face twisted. "Don't go in the forest at night." His fingers tightened around my arm. I pulled away, laughing nervously. "All right? Thanks for the warning." But he wasn't joking. His voice dropped to a whisper. "It doesn't like visitors." Then he turned, staring off into nothing, muttering under his breath. I walked away. I should have listened. The first night I heard the sound, my very first night. A low, distant humming, almost like singing. It came from the woods, soft at first, then louder. A woman's voice. It was beautiful, but something about it made my skin crawl. I told myself it was the wind, or my imagination. Then, something knocked on my window. A slow, deliberate tap. I spun around, but there was no one there. Just the trees and the darkness. I closed the curtains, but I didn't sleep. The figure in the trees. The next morning I tried to shake off the feeling. I spent the day hiking, exploring the forest in daylight. It was beautiful, peaceful. But then I noticed something. In the distance, half hidden behind the trees, a figure. Too far to make out details. Just standing there, watching. A chill ran down my spine. I took a step forward. It disappeared. I told myself it was a trick of the light. But when I turned back toward my cabin, the old man was standing there, watching me, shaking his head. The dare that night, I made a mistake. I was feeling brave, stupid. The humming started again, low, eerie, drifting through the trees. And this time, I followed it. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, moving toward the sound. The deeper I went, the louder it got. The singing was beautiful, hypnotic. Then, the flashlight flickered, and in the beam of light, I saw her. A woman, standing in the trees. Her back was turned to me, her long hair hanging in tangled strands. She was humming. Slowly, her head tilted to the side. Then, she turned. Her eyes were pitch black, and her mouth was too wide. Grinning. I stumbled back, the light flickered out completely, and then she screamed. The chase, I ran. I didn't think, I just ran. Through the trees, through the tangled roots, my breath ragged and sharp. Behind me, I could hear her laughter. She was chasing me. I could feel her getting closer, too fast, too inhuman. I tripped, fell hard, my knees hitting the ground. I turned over. She was right there. Her face inches from mine, her black eyes shining with hunger. Then, a shotgun blast split the air. The woman shrieked, a horrible, ear-splitting sound, then vanished into the trees. I turned. The old man was there, shotgun in hand. I told you not to go into the forest. The escape. He dragged me back to my cabin, didn't say a word until we were inside. Doors locked, curtains shut. Then he handed me something, a small pouch of salt. "Pour this around your cabin," he said, "and leave." I didn't ask questions, I did what he said. By sunrise, I was gone. I never looked back. But sometimes, on cold, quiet nights, I still hear the humming. My sister's ghost still visits me. I used to think ghosts weren't real. That was before my sister died, and before she came back. The accident, Emma was my twin. We did everything together, grew up side by side, played in the same fields, whispered secrets in the dark. Then one rainy night, she died. A car accident. It wasn't her fault. A drunk driver ran a red light, slamming into her car. I wasn't there, but I felt it. At the exact moment of the crash, I woke up gasping for air. My chest tight with an unbearable pressure, and I knew she was gone. The funeral was a blur. Tears, black dresses, the weight of grief pressing down on me. But the worst part wasn't her death. The worst part was what came after. The first night. The first time she came back, I thought it was a dream. I woke up to the sound of her voice, soft, familiar, whispering my name. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. The room was dark, and then she stepped out of the shadows. "Emma." She looked the same, but also not the same. Her skin was too pale, her eyes too dark, and she was smiling, not a warm smile. Something else, something wrong. I couldn't breathe. She tilted her head. "Don't be scared," she whispered. But I was, because Emma was dead, and she shouldn't be here. The next morning, I convinced myself it was a grief-induced hallucination. But then, things got worse. I started seeing her everywhere, in the corner of my eye, standing at the end of the hallway. Reflected in mirrors when I was alone, she never spoke, just watched. And every time I saw her, she was a little closer. The warning I told my mom, she didn't believe me, told me it was my mind playing tricks. But my grandmother, she believed. She pulled me aside, her eyes filled with fear. "That's not your sister," she whispered. I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean?" She grabbed my hand, squeezing tight. "When the dead linger too long, they change." I swallowed hard. "She's not here to visit you," my grandmother said. "She's here to take you with her." The last night I should have left, I should have listened, but I didn't, and that was my mistake. That night I woke up to freezing cold. The air was thick, heavy, suffocating. Then I saw her, standing at the foot of my bed, closer than ever. Her head tilted at an unnatural angle, her eyes black holes, empty and endless, and her smile too wide. "Come with me," she whispered. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. Then she grabbed my wrist. Her touch burned like ice, sinking deep into my skin. I gasped, my vision blurring, my body growing weak. I felt myself slipping, like she was pulling me somewhere else, somewhere dark. I fought with everything I had. I tore away from her grip, stumbled back, and then she screamed. Not a human scream, something worse. And then she vanished. The aftermath. The next day I found finger-shaped bruises on my wrist, proof that it wasn't a dream. That night was the last time I saw her. But sometimes, when the house is silent, when the air is too cold, when I look into the mirror, I swear I still feel her watching me. The watch that counts down to my death. The gift. It started with a watch, a simple black leather wristwatch with a silver face. It arrived in the mail with no return address, wrapped in a small plain box. Inside there was only a note: "Wear it. Don't take it off." I should have ignored it, but I didn't. I slid the watch onto my wrist. That's when I saw it. The numbers. They were counting down. At first I thought it was a timer, but something about the numbers, something about the way they ticked down second by second, felt wrong. Like they were measuring something else, something important, something final. The numbers. The watch showed 6 days, 21 hours, 42 minutes, 9 seconds, and counting down. I laughed to be a prank, right? Some kind of gimmick watch. I tried to reset it. No buttons, no settings, nothing. I tried to take it off. The leather band wouldn't budge. I pulled, I twisted. It wouldn't move. It was like the watch had fused to my skin. I felt a chill creep up my spine. This wasn't normal. This wasn't right. And the numbers kept ticking down. The warning. That night, I barely slept. I couldn't stop staring at the numbers. What would happen when they hit 0? The thought sent ice through my veins. The next day, I went to a watch repair shop. The old man behind the counter took one look at my wrist and went pale. He refused to touch it. "Where did you get this?" he whispered. "I don't know," I admitted. "It came in the mail." His eyes darkened. "You need to get rid of it. Now. I can't take it off." He backed away from me, like I was cursed. "Then you don't have much time," he muttered. I left, and the numbers kept ticking down. The accidents. Strange things started happening. A car nearly hit me when I crossed the street. A falling sign missed me by inches. A fire broke out in my apartment building, forcing me into the night. It was like something was trying to kill me, or like something was testing me. I checked the watch. Every close call made the numbers jump backward, by seconds, by minutes. Like it was keeping me alive, just long enough to make it interesting. Like it wanted me to know, to feel every second slipping away. The truth, I turned to the internet. I posted a picture of the watch in a forum for occult objects. One response stood out: "You've been chosen." I messaged the user, desperate for answers. Their reply sent a shiver through my bones. The watch is a contract, a game. If you make it to 0, you lose. Lose? I typed back, you die. I stared at the words. A joke. It had to be a joke? Then another message came through. You can reset it. How? I typed, my hands shaking. The response made my blood turn to ice. Someone else has to take it. The choice. I had 12 minutes left. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to be a part of this game. But the only way out was to pass it on, to doom someone else. I thought about mailing it to a stranger, leaving it on a park bench, but no matter how hard I tried, the watch wouldn't come off. The seconds kept ticking. Panic clawed at my throat. I ran into the street, desperate. Then I saw him. A homeless man sitting on the sidewalk, shivering in the cold. He looked up at me with tired eyes, and in that moment, I knew. I couldn't do it. I couldn't trade my life for someone else's. I sank to my knees, the watch burning against my wrist. The numbers hit. I closed my eyes and waited. The reset, everything went black. And then, a click. I opened my eyes. The watch was gone. I gasped, staring at my wrist, bare. The countdown had vanished. Had I won? Had I beaten the game? I staggered to my feet, my heart hammering. Then, a buzz. My phone vibrated in my pocket, a new message from an unknown number. I opened it, my blood running cold. Congratulations. Then another message. You survived, for now. And beneath that, a photo of a watch, a new one, with a brand new countdown. 30 days and counting. Tick, tick, tick.